Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be diving into the question of what do homeschoolers do all day? Now if you are new to homeschooling or maybe you have been a homeschooler but you're just kind of wondering what other people do out there, this video is for you. Now many of us know that homeschooling does not necessarily look like public school at home, right? It doesn't usually take 8 hours to homeschool a child at home. In many cases, most of us are not spending more than an hour or two on homeschool each day. And of course, that might vary depending on the ages of your kids. But what are you going to do with the rest of those hours? What are you doing for the rest of your day? So I'm going to let you guys kind of get a sneak peek into what our daily routine looks like from the time my kids get up to the time they go to bed, and talk about all the stuff that happens in between that time. Now, I have shared in the past a little bit of our schedule and kind of our flow of our day, but I have never shared our routine since I've had both my kids home full time. We've been following this schedule for a little over a month now, and it's been going really, really well. I've had to tweak it a few times, but I really feel like we have a really good system down now, so I really wanted to share with you guys and so hopefully give you some ideas for your own family success. Obviously, it goes without saying that everyone's routine and schedule is going to look a little bit different. Some people have parents who are working from home, others are not. Some people are really involved in co-ops and extracurricular classes, and others are not. So make the schedule work for you. I tried to make my routine flexible but also consistent so that my kids have that familiarity, but we're also able to pivot when things come up in our life. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our daily routine. So I do have it nice and printed out here. I actually have this same schedule hanging up in our house just for my own visual reference and my kids' visual reference. And then this is only half of it. I actually have the other half over here. So let's go ahead and start out with the very beginning of our day, which is breakfast. I know everybody has different kids, but for my kids, they want to eat right when they get up. As soon as they're up, if there's not food ready, especially my youngest, my toddler, will be grumpy. And if you're wondering what ages are following this schedule, I probably should have mentioned that before. I currently have a 6, almost 7-year-old and a 2, very close to being 3-year-old. So this schedule really works for that 6, 7-year-old and that toddler age range. But you could definitely adapt this to any age of kid. I feel like we will follow something similar to this for the next few years for sure. So anyway, we're starting out with breakfast. I usually try to get up before my kids and have some breakfast ready. But if it doesn't happen, then I do have some just easy, quick make breakfast things like cereal and toast and stuff like that that's just available. We don't do big fancy breakfasts in our house. So just some easy, quick things. My kids will have a breakfast, and then they will go into the second part of our routine, which is our morning checklist. Now, both my kids have a morning and evening checklist that is just hung by their light switch in their rooms. If you guys would like to see more specifically like what that looks like and how we implement that, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll try to make a video on that. But basically the checklist is just a list of things they need to get done in the morning. It's different obviously by age, but it'll be things like getting dressed, doing your morning chores, that kind of thing. So once my kids have completed their morning checklist, then they are good to go and free play. So yes, my kids do have free play before we start school in the mornings. I used to try to jump straight into homeschool, but I found, especially for my eldest child, he really would be grumpy because he wanted to be able to play with his toys, and it kind of made it difficult to motivate him to get into homeschool and have a good attitude. So I try to compromise and let him have a little bit of playtime in the morning, but also not too much, because I found that if I let him play like all morning and we tried to homeschool like in the afternoon, that was like even more of a disaster. So there's definitely a happy medium there, but I let my kids play after their morning checklist. You'll notice I don't have times on this routine. This is very much a flow, not like a specific at 9 o'clock we're doing this. So the free play usually is at least 90 minutes, but it can be much longer. It just depends on the morning. While my kids are doing their free play, excuse me, my voice, this is when I will go do my like cleaning, do housework, whatever needs to be done like in that regard. So if you guys watched my cleaning system video, which I just recently made, I'll try to leave that linked below. I kind of talk about what I do on a daily basis when it comes to cleaning, but that is usually when I get that done, is when my kids are doing free play. Okay, so after that time, then my kids are usually ready for a snack. I don't know about your kids, but my kids are hungry like every hour, it seems like. So we do have like a little morning snack. So they'll eat their snack, and then after that is when we will start homeschool. Now, at least at this moment in time, I'm not able to homeschool my kids together. I have a really young toddler who just will not, sit there for that length of time. And obviously he's not even really doing formal school yet because he's very young. And my eldest is very easily distracted. So what I do is I actually will homeschool my youngest first, which we're just doing like a little tot school. So it's like 15, 20 minutes of us just kind of like doing intentional play together. And then I will go and actually set him up either with an educational tablet or like a Miss Rachel video. That is kind of his one time a day that he really gets screens in order for me to be able to homeschool my eldest child. So that's when he does that. And then I will come and I will homeschool my eldest child who's currently in first grade, and we'll do his first grade work. It takes us usually about an hour to do his first grade work. That can vary a little bit depending on his attitude and how things are going, but that's generally what we do for homeschool. If you're curious kind of like what we're using for homeschool, I have made curriculum pick videos on my channel. You can go look and see like specifically what we're doing during that time, but that is when we will get our homeschool time done. So after homeschool time, this is when our schedule can sometimes change depending on the day. So I have on here, we either do adventure or an activity. So adventure time is what we call like leaving the house time. So it could be anything from a park day to a field trip, to running errands with mom, anything outside of the house, we call that like our adventure. So we usually have an adventure day about 3 days a week. So typically it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll try to get out of the house and do something with my kids, either with our homeschool group or with a friend, or even just on our own. We'll just go out and do something outside of the house. And then I try to keep at least 2 days out of the week as home days. I have tried like going out every single day or staying home every single day, and I just find there's a happy medium for us, and for us it's 3 days out, 2 days home. It might be different for your family, but that's what works for us. So that is usually what we'll do, is we'll either go on adventure or we'll have activity time. So on our home days, we'll have activity time, and this is when I get all those extras in. So if you've ever wondered like, when do homeschool families, fit in all this like extra stuff? Like when do they fit in the art projects and music and like all this like other like little stuff? And that is what I use activity time for. So it's not the same activity every time, it's different. I just kind of have a list and I just kind of rotate it randomly depending on what I'm feeling that day, basically. It's not super cut and dry. So I might, for example, put out some jigsaw puzzles for my kids to do, and they'll have puzzle time, and I'll put some music on and they'll play puzzles for a little while. Or I'll put out, some art, like some watercolor paint and some paper, and let them do watercolor. Or, sometimes I'll also utilize like YouTube. Sometimes I'll put on like a drawing lesson on YouTube, or we'll play a board game together, or just something along those lines. They'll do a sensory bin, just all those little extras. If you guys would like to see more about like what we do during activity time and all the different things I have and how I have that set up, I'd be happy to make another video on that. But basically that is what we do during activity time. It's just some sort of structured, planned activity. And I really find this may not be necessary for your kids, but I find it necessary for mine, because if I just let them have free play for the rest of the day, well, two things will happen. One, my kids will spend the entire day usually either playing Legos or cars, and that's it. And I have nothing against Legos and cars. Free play is great. It's wonderful for kids, and I want them to have lots of hours of free play. But I also want them to have time where they are doing other enriching things like art and puzzles and things like that. And I find that my kids will just not naturally gravitate towards that. I have an entire like beautiful like art cabinet full of all kinds of supplies that is available to them, and my kids will literally never touch it unless I like make a structured activity for it. So that is why we have activity time, is to just fit in some of those extra things that I would like them to do occasionally, that they may not choose to do on their own. So anyway, so after we have our activity time or our adventure time, then we will have lunch. If it's an adventure day, usually I'll pack a lunch and we'll just have it when we're out. If it's a home day, then I'll just make the lunch at home. Then after lunchtime, we will have our read aloud time. So this is usually when I will try to read like either a chapter book that we're reading, or we have like a library basket of all the library books we have. We'll read some books out of that. So just some planned reading time basically. And then after that, we have quiet time, also known as sanity time for mom. So this is when my kids will go play in their room for an hour or two and just have some quiet playtime on their own. Both my kids do this very well. Again, I have a 2 almost 3-year-old and a 6 almost 7-year-old, and both of them will play in their room quietly for that amount of time. Now, sometimes my 2-year-old will still take a nap. It just depends. I usually give him the option. Sometimes he does pick nap, and sometimes he just picks quiet time, and so he will either play quietly or take a nap, and then that's when I get either me time or work time or whatever it is I need. It's time for me to do whatever it is I need to do. That is my time in the afternoon. And then after quiet time, my kids have another snack, an afternoon snack. They're usually ready after they wake up from nap. And then that brings us into our second half of our schedule. So usually when my kids get up from quiet time, I will have another activity set out for them. Usually our afternoon activity is usually a craft. So I will set out some sort of art for them and usually have a snack out there too. So by the time they get up quiet time, there's already an activity and a snack waiting for them. I find that just really helps our transition, especially for my youngest toddler. He sometimes can be grumpy waking up, and having something already available and food available just helps the day run smoother. After we have our activity time, then we will go outside and walk the dog. And then after that, if the weather is nice, we will actually stay outside and continue to play out there for an hour or two. If the weather is really bad, unsafe, like ice or lightning or tornado warning or whatever, then we will be inside playing in the playroom instead. I find a lot of times my kids really prefer to play in their bedrooms, and our playroom doesn't get used that much. So I like to have a specific time that we actually come in here and play with some of the stuff in here. So that is what we will do until it is time for me to make dinner. And then once it is time for me to make dinner, that is when my kids get their screen time. So I will put on a TV show. I usually try to pick something pretty low stimulating like Curious George or Sesame Street. And I'll let my kids watch one episode while I make dinner. Then we will have dinner together as a family. Usually my husband is home by this time. And after dinner, my kids will go and work on their evening checklist. So similar to the morning checklist, they have a list hanging of things they need to complete in the evening, like put your pajamas on, brush your teeth, do your evening chores, that kind of thing. So my kids will do that, and they can do that pretty independently. And then once they are all ready for bed, then we have family time. Now, family time can look different depending on the day. Honestly, some days we get to this late and my kids just read books and go to bed. Other times, it's early and we have time to, play board games as a family or go on a walk or whatever, just something together as a family to do. And then my kids read books and go to bed. So that is our entire day. As I mentioned, some days we are out, on an adventure. That could be like a library day, a park day, field trip day. There's lots of different things. And again, I do try to do that about 3 times a week. My eldest is really social and he enjoys having that friend time. But in terms of like what we do at home, this is our typical daily schedule. So I have our little routine here. I have it hanging up in our house, and I have found that this has worked pretty well. It's flexible enough because it doesn't have times to it that if I need to have a little more time to clean, my kids get a little longer playtime, right? If we need to have a little longer homeschool time, that's fine. We leave a little bit late for our adventure or whatever. So I just find it's flexible enough. It's also consistent enough and just has a good flow to it. This has worked really well for my family. If there is something that you have found that works wonderful for your family, definitely leave it in the comments below so this video can help others out. And also, I like to hear your guys' ideas too. I love videos like this that show people, what they do during the homeschool day, because I'm always fascinated to see, how different homeschool can look for different people. I hope this was helpful for you guys. If it was, definitely give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel to see more homeschool and motherhood content, and I will see you guys in the next one.